The journey for the Dark Tower continues. That's right, we're talking about The Drawing of the Three by Stephen King, book 2 of the massive Dark Tower series. In the second installment of the Dark Tower series, Roland of Gilead, our gunslinger, is left a shell of his former self when a series of unfortunate events plagues him. Luckily, he encounters 3 mysterious doorways to another world. A world very similar to his. A world that perhaps has not yet moved on. A world that the reader may recognize. The Drawing of the Three is very different than The Gunslinger. It is much better. And after reading The Drawing of the Three, it made me realize just how satisfactory, mid-average, The Gunslinger was. I enjoyed this book, but The Drawing of the Three is much better. The Drawing of the Three is not plagued by the same pacing issues that The Gunslinger suffered from. This book is much shorter than this book, about 4 or 5 hours. But in The Gunslinger, you are plagued by constant flashbacks to Roland's past, which definitely muddled up the pacing of the read, which made The Drawing of the Three seem like a very quick read despite being 4 or 5 hours longer. Stephen King writing a slow-paced book that kind of slogs on is nothing new, and I could overlook those things. But The Drawing of the Three improved upon one massive shortcoming in The Gunslinger, and that is the likability of Roland and the empathy the reader feels for Roland. Roland of Gilead is definitely an unlikable protagonist, and in The Gunslinger, this was very apparent. The only other main character is very likable, very easy to feel empathy for. But even though Roland suffers throughout the entirety of both these books, it is hard to feel empathy for him, because he's an unstoppable killing machine that feels for nobody else, doesn't care about anybody else, is consumed by his obsession for the Dark Tower, and he does some pretty heinous things, especially towards the end of The Gunslinger. He does something superbly heinous that makes it very easy to dislike him, and it kind of ruined the ending of this book for me. The Drawing of the Three solved these likability problems by surrounding Roland with unlikable characters who are also morally gray and twisted, and also by putting him in a setting that he's unfamiliar with. In The Gunslinger, Roland never seems off balance. He never seems to be out of his element. He never seems to be lost for what to do. But in The Drawing of the Three, we see Roland thrust into different situations that the reader would understand how to navigate, but he does not because he's in a different world. And it makes it easier to feel empathy for Roland because he's making mistakes. He's making stupid decisions, and they're decisions that the reader would never make. And that's a pretty cool place to be, because it's really cool when you can read a book and for a few moments, you could feel like you know more than the protagonist. Obviously, you wouldn't want to sustain that feeling of comfortability, that feeling of condescension for the protagonist in the reader, because that would make for a very boring book. But it was nice to see some glimpses of Roland seeming to be completely inept in certain situations. I very much enjoyed my time reading The Drawing of the Three. It's a read that really has it all. This book has action scenes, it has romance, it has funny dialogue, it has complex character dynamics, it has moments of outrageous hilariousness, it has monsters because it's a Stephen King novel after all, and it has something not every book has. It has several mentally ill protagonists, which makes all the dynamics and interaction between these characters very colorful and very unpredictable, and it suspends the reader in a feeling of anxiety, and it's just very compelling. Surrounding Roland with characters suffering from mental illness makes his obsession for the Dark Tower seem pretty tame by comparison, and it makes him seem a lot more normal. The Drawing of Three has very straightforward villains. They're heinous, they do despicable things, it's easy to root against them, which makes it easier to root for Roland, because even though he's not exactly a good guy, he's definitely not as evil as the villains in this book. I mentioned earlier how at the end of The Gunslinger, Roland does something very evil, incredibly despicable, that made me hate him almost. But he makes it right in The Drawing of the Three. I found the climax of this book very emotionally satisfying. Stephen King has a reputation for kind of messing up the endings of his books, but that is not so in The Drawing of the Three. I definitely want more. I definitely can't wait to continue on my journey for the Dark Tower. I can't make predictions. So far, these 2 books are very different, and I imagine the next 6 installments of this series is going to be very strange and very hard to make predictions for. I have no idea where this fever dream of a series is going to take me, but I'm compelled, and I'm intrigued, and I'm motivated to see this journey through till the end. Now, how would I rate The Drawing of the Three out of 5 stars? That's a hard question to answer. More than 4, but less than 5. It's not a perfect read by any means, but it was very enjoyable. I liked the characters, the dialogue was very well done, the scenes were very funny, I liked the action, I liked the monsters. Probably 4.25 out of 5 stars approximately. I enjoyed it a lot. Definitely one of my favorite reads of the year so far for the year 2023. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, push the little thumbs up icon. Subscribe to my channel if you want to hear me talk about any other books. Leave a comment below about what you thought about the drawing of the 3. And I'll see you guys next time.